people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. A fight of some importance. Only 3 months after becoming the Flyweight Division's WBO champion. Newly crowned WBO Flyweight champion Tamara Demarco is going to be defending her title against unbeaten Celeste Alaniz. Both Argentinian. Not but 3 months ago, in March, Tamara Demarco upset the apple cart for then unbeaten Argentinian champion Deborah Ana E. Lopez. And from the looks of it, it doesn't look like Deborah's going to get a chance to win that belt back. Doesn't look like there's going to be a rematch. In truth, there's a high probability that the title, once again, changes hands from Tamara Demarco to Celeste Alaniz. I half expected to see a rematch between Deborah and Tamara. That's not the case. I vaguely recall hearing that Celeste Alaniz is the mandatory challenger to the WBO title. I don't know how true that is. Vaguely recall hearing a blurb 1 or 2 weeks ago. But if you know anything about Celeste Alaniz, you'll know that there's not much reason to fight her unless you have to. She is a high-risk, low-reward opponent. Approximately 8 years younger than the newly crowned reigning champion Tamara Demarco, and she's vicious. She's dangerous. She's no finesse-fighting kind of fighter like Deborah Ana E. Lopez, who Tamara Demarco won that WBO title from. No. This ain't no back foot stick and move outside jabber. No, Celeste is a puncher, a mean-spirited one. Sporting a professional record of 12 wins, no losses, no draws with 4 knockouts. There's a high probability that Tamara Demarco will be Celeste's next victim. Tamara Demarco, who in July of last year was stopped by Evelyn Bermudez. That was one division south at light flyweight. Light flyweight, where Evelyn Bermudez, the younger sister of Daniela Bermudez, that's where Evelyn reigns as that division's unified champion. This fight with Tamara and Celeste, this is happening one division north of light flyweight at flyweight, where Tamara Demarco currently holds the WBO title. Being honest, I don't think she's going to hold it for very long. Tamara was stopped in July of last year, but she rebounded off that loss in March of this year, prying away the WBO title from then unbeaten Deborah Ana E. Lopez. But I think she's on the verge of getting stopped again, because I've got Celeste knocking her the fuck out. Celeste is an aggressive fighter, a bouncy one, though a come-forward fighter, a fighter that believes in her power, believes in her punches, often flurrying. Furious flurries and combinations. Hard right hand with bad intentions behind it. At minimum, I think Celeste can outwork Tamara Demarco. Because Celeste is a busy puncher, a prolific puncher, a volume puncher, and because of that, at minimum, I'd pick Celeste to win on points. So I'll go as far as saying that if Tamara Demarco was stopped downstairs at light flyweight, what do you imagine Celeste is going to do to her? One division north at flyweight. I think Tamara's going to get knocked out. That's what I think. Because Celeste Alaniz is your, according to Hoyle, tough Argentinian slugger. Tough as nails with a lot of power. There are currently 3 active reigning world champions in the flyweight division. There is unified champion of the United States, Marlena Esparza, holding the WBA and WBC titles. There is Argentina's own Leonela Paula Judica, holding the IBF title. And then there is the ill-fated Tamara Demarco, who's set to return to action on the 18th in defense of that WBO title that I think is going to change hands. There's a fly in the ointment. Unified champion Marlena Esparza has aspirations of becoming this division's undisputed champion, and perhaps that seemed easy enough to do before. If the WBO title changes hands, will Marlena Esparza keep the same energy? Marlena Esparza is the only active reigning champion in this division that has a major promoter behind her. And because of that, she's become a target. She's become the money fight, the proverbial money fight for anybody at or around flyweight.
Mexico's own Kenya Enriquez wants her.
Kenya Enriquez is yet another high-risk, low-reward opponent for Marlena Esparza. And in many ways, so is Celeste. At least right now she is. But if Celeste prized the WBO title away from Tamara DeMarco, will Marlena Esparza keep the same energy? Will she still vie to become this division's undisputed champion if she has to go through Celeste in order to do it?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't. Taking on Celeste, as opposed to Tamara DeMarco, who sports a professional record of 10 wins with 4 losses, having been stopped at least once at a lower weight.
Taking on Celeste as opposed to taking on Tamara is a very different proposition.
We'll see how the cookie crumbles. We'll see how it all breaks down. Keep your eyes peeled for Tamara DeMarco versus Celeste Alaniz later on this month on the 18th. And let's see if that WBO title don't change hands. If and when it does, will Marlena Esparza keep the same energy? Will she still vie to become this division's undisputed champion? She's still going to want to. In other news, Arum is receptive to Stevenson versus Tank fight despite the politics.
Yeah, kind of like how he was receptive to a Crawford versus Spence fight, but politics got in the way.
Politics are the reason that fight didn't happen sooner, among other things, and politics would be the reason that this fight, a fight like this one, doesn't happen sooner. Shakur Stevenson isn't on Gervonta Davis's radar.
I don't think he is. I don't see a reason why not. Shakur is obviously an elite talent and is competitive against any of these guys. He's a very tough guy to beat. Shakur, as he's demonstrated in the months, years ahead, we're gonna put Shakur in with these types of fighters. Nobody wants to see Shakur fight walkovers. They want to see him tested, and Shakur, to his credit, wants to be tested.
I'm going to say it right here and right now.
What?
Shakur Stevenson is a nightmare for a Gervonta Davis.
A what?
You heard that right. A nightmare. It's a very bad stylistic matchup for a counterpuncher like a Gervonta Davis who's essentially waiting for the other guy to make a mistake.
What happens if the other guy don't make mistakes?
Bob Arum brushed off concerns that political divisions will prevent Stevenson from fighting Davis. Arum pointed to certain fights he has made with other promoters as evidence that Stevenson versus Davis would not be out the realm of possibility. Arum co-promoted 2 heavily publicized heavyweight title bouts featuring Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder with Heyman's PBC.
He's an elite fighter.
He was talking about Gervonta Davis.
There will certainly be an opportunity down the road to match him with one of our fighters. That's whether he's still under contract to Floyd or he's not.
We know that Bob's receptive to doing a fight like this, but do you remember what Floyd and Leonard said a couple of months ago?
They said they're gonna keep everything in-house.
This nonsense about not fighting fighters that are under contracts to other promoters, I don't believe in that. I think that we demonstrated that. We've had a lot of matchups with our fighters fighting against PBC fighters or against Golden Boy Promotions fighters.
You know what usually happens when a top-ranked fighter shares the ring with a PBC fighter? You know what usually happens? Vosdik versus Stevenson. You remember that?
Huh?
You remember what Alexander Vosdik did to Adonis Stevenson? Do you remember what Tyson Fury did to Deontay Wilder the last 2 times? Do you remember?
Did you see what Artur Better Beef did to Marcus Brown in Canada?
Do you remember what Terence Crawford did to Felix Diaz? Most people don't remember that Felix Diaz was a PBC fighter, but he was a bit of a hot potato.
High-risk, low-reward guy, Olympic gold medalist.
A PBC fighter at the time who said that he wanted a Terence Crawford fight, and you know what?
What?
He got it, and we see how that worked out. You see what usually happens when a top-ranked fighter takes on a PBC fighter.
There's a reason for this, you know.
It all boils down to the methodology of the different outfits. Top Rank isn't afraid to put fighters they're invested in sink or swim situations because they want to ensure that those fighters are the real thing, that they develop properly.
It's not opportunistic matchmaking, it's a grooming process.
The way they match their fighters, as opposed to what you see at the PBC and the way they match their fighters, they match their guys baby soft. They put a guy like Gervonta Davis in there with guys he can't learn nothing from. He can't learn nothing from fighting a Fonseca or a Munoz or a Ruiz or a Rolly Romero.
They match Gervonta Davis in a way that makes him look good, perhaps better than what he really is.
And they're not matching him against the best super featherweight or the best lightweight or the the best super lightweight, because Gervonta Davis has campaigned at those three weights, 130, 135, and as high as 140 pounds. But he's not facing top-tier, top-shelf guys at those weights. I mean, that's not what Rolly Romero was, or Mario Barrios before him.
Now, Shakur Stevenson, unlike Gervonta Davis, is a full-fledged two-division champion.
Who beat two of the best guys at his prescribed weight, super featherweight. Reigning WBO champion Jamel Herring, reigning WBC champion and two-division champion Oscar Valdez. Two very different guys with two very different base styles.
I tell you learn more fighting guys like that and fighting guys like Rolly.
Shakur Stevenson is your according to Hoyle pure boxer. Defensively responsible, hard to find, hard to hit, economic, and efficient. Not a guy who goes out there just throwing punches to be throwing punches. He's efficient.
Yeah, he's a pure boxer like Devin Haney is a pure boxer.
In terms of base styles. Now, both fighters, they do have their differences, their small nuances, subtleties, so on and so forth, like Devin being an orthodox fighter, as opposed to Shakur being a southpaw.
A southpaw like Gervonta Davis.
That is an advantage that Gervonta Davis wouldn't have ahead of a fight with a Shakur Stevenson because they're both southpaws, so they'd be on even terrain in that field, and it's going to come down to who's the better boxer.
Neither guy would have that southpaw advantage in a fight with the other.
Gervonta and Shakur, being southpaws. Gervonta Davis is your boxer puncher, the guy who uses the boxing to implement the punching, the guy that goes in there with the intention of knocking you out.
But he's not come forward or aggressive enough to be categorized as a pressure fighter.
He's not a prolific enough puncher to be categorized as a pressure fighter, a volume guy. And Gervonta Davis has shown that he can fight on the back foot if need be, which is uncharacteristic of a pressure fighter. What's characteristic of a pressure fighter is coming forward and applying pressure, not moving backwards or moving laterally, the way that Gervonta Davis did in the Isaac Cruz fight. Isaac Cruz is your, according to Hoyle, pressure fighter, whereas Gervonta Davis is your, according to Hoyle, boxer puncher.
He can box and he can punch.
We've had this conversation many times before. The stylistic advantage that the pure boxer like Shakur Stevenson is a pure boxer. We've talked about how pure boxers have an advantage over boxer punchers because boxer punchers, especially ones that like to work off the counter, they're waiting for the other guy to make mistakes, and sometimes they're not doing enough to create opportunities as opposed to waiting for them to happen.
Waiting for the other guy to make a mistake.
Your A-level boxer puncher, your elite-level top-shelf boxer puncher. If the other guy's not affording him any countering opportunities, the elite level guy's going to go out there and create them. Feinting.
Alternating the speed of his jab, but disguising his punches.
There's different ways they go about it, but the real elite level, top shelf boxer punchers out there, if you don't afford them any opportunities, they'll go out there and create them. And I hate to say this, but Gervonta Davis ain't that guy. He's not a prolific enough puncher to put the squeeze on a pure boxer. If anything, he's going to look for a countering opportunity that simply isn't there. And that's what would cause him to be outpointed by a pure boxer, outpointed by a Shakur Stevenson, who don't go in there with the intention of knocking the guy out. If he can beat the guy with one hand, beating the guy with one hand works just fine.
He's not going to throw the same punch 3 times like Leo Santa Cruz did.
End up getting countered for it, like Leo Santa Cruz did. He's not going to throw the same combination in sequence back-to-back, the same way Rolly Romero did, leaving his chin out there, leaving himself open to be countered. Shakur Stevenson, and pure boxers in general, they're too defensively responsible to make those kinds of mistakes. So those countering opportunities that Gervonta capitalized on in those fights, they wouldn't be there with Shakur in this fight.
Shakur's just as fast as Gervonta.
And he leads with the right hand. He's a southpaw like Gervonta's a southpaw, but Shakur has a stylistic advantage.
I'm not expecting to see this fight happen anytime in the near future or the distant future.
I'm not, but I would give Shakur Stevenson the edge in such a fight. I would favor him to win on points, and the longer it takes to make, the more experience Shakur amasses, the more dangerous that fight becomes for Gervonta Davis. And finally, in men's bantamweight and super bantamweight news, former WBC bantamweight champion Luis Neri, who now campaigns as a super bantamweight, he posted this image via his social media with a caption that reads, "Let's make it happen. Naoya Inoue, Top Rank Boxing, Premier Boxing." He's proposing a cross-promotional, cross-platform fight. Is that what he's angling for?
It's not going to happen.
It's not. There's not enough money in it. He doesn't have anything that Naoya Inoue wants, anything he needs at 118 or 122 pounds.
He doesn't.
Luis Neri's not a champion anymore.
Brandon Figueroa took his belt.
Took his belt when he knocked him out. I don't think Luis Neri can make 118 pounds anymore. He hasn't campaigned as a bantamweight in about 2 years, since July of 2019 when he fought Juan Carlos Pagano, who he stopped.
He looked pretty bang average doing it.
He said, I already destroyed Japanese boxing once. I won't take long to do it again. And he's talking about those two Shinsuke Yamanaka fights. Those fights where he ragdolled the very decorated, then unbeaten Shinsuke Yamanaka. But what he's leaving out is that he's barred from boxing on Japanese soil because he tested positive for a banned substance after the first fight, and he blew the weight ahead of the second. This guy isn't actually allowed to box in the land of the rising sun.
And that's where Naoya Inoue is a star.
It's where he can draw upwards of 20,000 people to watch him splatter a guy over there in Japan, where Luis Neri's not allowed to box.
I'm sure Luis Neri himself is aware of the ban.
So what is this? I'll tell you what it is. It's plain old clout chasing, plain and simple. Calling out a fighter at a weight where you no longer campaign,
right?
Who fights
in Japan where you can't travel, where you can't go, where you can't box.
And even if he were to return to the United States to box under the top rank banner on the ESPN platform, you're a PBC fighter. You're a PBC guy. You're up there at 122 pounds. If you want to call somebody out, why don't you call Stephen Fulton out?
You're on the right side of the street to get that fight. He's a PBC fighter like you're a PBC fighter.
For calling out a guy that's at 118 pounds when you're at 122, calling out a guy that's not even on your side of the street, why don't you call out Murajan Akhmadaliev?
Since you want to call out other people's fighters.
Now don't get me wrong. I'd actually like to see Naoya Inoue versus Luis Neri because I think Naoya Inoue would splatter Luis Neri. He's looked bang average since those two Yamanaka fights.
He hasn't looked nothing special since then, and those fights took place years ago.
Didn't look too hot in that Pagano fight. He certainly hasn't been looking too hot at 122 pounds, getting knocked out by Brandon Figueroa and winning his last fight by way of a split decision.
Oh yeah, I'd pick Inoue to stop this guy.
Who's a far cry from the guy that he was in those two Shinsuke Yamanaka fights. What are career best wins for him? Career best wins that are tainted with controversy. Controversy over the banned substance they found in his system. Controversy over him blowing the weight, losing the title on the scales ahead of the rematch, subsequently being banned from entering Japan.
I don't know. He could probably vacation there, but he can't box.
He's not allowed to box in Japan. I see this and I tell myself, is it a fight that this guy's really after? Or does he see that a Japanese fighter is making waves that ripple all the way to the United States? He's got people talking. Is
he really trying to get a fight, or is he just trying to ride this guy's wave?
Chasing a fight, or is he chasing clout? And on the face of it, I'd have to say that this is just plain old clout chasing. And he knows that.
He can't get much attention for his fights, especially not since he got knocked out by Brandon Figueroa.
He doesn't have a belt or anything that anybody needs, anybody wants. He's not the mandatory challenger for any belts at this time, anybody's alphabet title. So the most he can do...
Promotion by way of name association. It's obvious.
Oh yeah, he'll bring up Yamanaka, but he won't bring up all the other gory details associated with the both of those fights.
Pretty tight-lipped about that.
It's just plain old clout chasing.